Hi, my friends. Welcome back to my channel and this important conversation. Today I have Melissa with me, and Melissa is with essentialgrief.com. Hi, Melissa. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. So great to have you here. And I found Melissa on Instagram a while back, and I have personally experienced several miscarriages. And when I found her site, Essential Grief, it really was a welcome site for me, as I'm sure many of you who are tuning in. When you have experienced the loss in pregnancy and the loss of a child, you may feel alone. You may feel that you're going through the grieving process. But as we know, it's a very difficult thing for most people to talk about. They're uncomfortable. And so this is an important topic and an important mission, Melissa, that I really commend you on for stepping up and being able to help others cope with the grief, cope with the loss. So why don't we open it up by you just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Melissa Allen, and I live in New Brunswick, Canada, with my husband of 13 years, and we have 14 children, 7 that are with us and 7 that are in God's garden. And I've experienced miscarriage from 4 weeks all the way up to 16 weeks. We converted from Protestantism into Catholicism in 2019. And I am an advanced aromatherapist, birth and bereavement doula. I am also in the process of certifying for a grief coach and taking a traditional birth attendant course. Currently, with my aromatherapy, I offer women who are grieving with pregnancy and infant loss. I help equip them in their grief journey so they can flourish and be victorious in their faith.
Beautiful. I love how everything is incorporated, and welcome to the Catholic family. So that's beautiful. Can you just start out by telling our viewers what aromatherapy is?
Aromatherapy is using essential oils, and it's used with our body's own ability to naturally balance and heal itself. So an essential oil is actually an organic compound from a plant, and that part of the plant could be a root, leaf, stem, flower, and it is distilled and put in these little tiny bottles. And then as an aromatherapist, we use different dilutions in order to make sure it works for you. And we also make sure that it's going to be safe for you as well, from any medical history that you may have or any medication that you are on. These essential oils are called essential because they are essential to the plant. They're not actually essential for us, but they help the plant to adapt in their environment.
I love that explanation, because I have used essential oils, particularly lavender. I've used them as a calming source. My mom actually had ovarian cancer, and when the hospice nurse was there and attending to her, she used a lot of lavender creams and oils just to apply to the skin to bring that sense of calmness in that state. So I personally have seen the benefits of it, but I think that's a wonderful explanation. of it being essential to the plant, but in so many ways, we can benefit as well from the therapeutic properties. Now, as far as the type of essential oil, there's so many different types of essential oil and grades of essential oil. Do you use a certain type of essential oil or grade?
Not necessarily. I kind of scope out the company first and read a little bit about them and research before I use them.
So I guess it just depends on your body chemistry and your own personal makeup of your body. Now, as a miscarriage survivor myself, I can testify to experiencing feelings of isolation and loneliness in my grief. I just felt I was alone. There didn't seem to be any support sources. Can you explain more about how your services offer nourishment and healing?
Sure. So I just want to touch back on how aromatherapy works specifically with our bodies. So I'll try not to get too sciencey or geeky, but when we grieve, our brains send up, our brain sends up a danger signal to our bodies. So we have high levels of cortisol and norepinephrine, which causes like that high stress. And our body is trying to compensate to bring it back down. And when we are under that high stress for such a long time, our brain structurally can actually change. They've done MRIs showing of people that have gone through trauma and PTSD that their brains have actually changed. Different structures have gotten smaller. And one of the structures that changes is called the limbic system. And the limbic system is responsible for our mood and emotions, hormones. It helps regulate our stress level, like heart rate, blood pressure. And so how essential oils can help is when you breathe in an oil, it actually can have that opposite effect where it works not just with our emotions, but also with our hormones and our memory as well. Because when we breathe in, our olfactory bulb, which is in our nose, it's directly connected to our limbic system. So if you think about an aroma that you love, I know some people love the smell of baked bread. And when you have like a strong smell like that, you have a strong emotion attached to it. Like some people think baked bread because they think of grandma's house, right? And having that or whatever it is. So research has actually shown that when you use oils for grief, you can actually rewrite your stress level. So it's not so high, it brings it down and you have a more positive experience with it than a difficult experience with it. So
that's fascinating to me. Of course, the more we dive into this and unpack this and look at it, everything in our bodies, it's mind, body, spirit connection. And,
yes.
You're bringing that connection between something sensory. In this case, it's, that specific aroma,
Mm-hmm.
and then the benefits and the changes that that can take place within us and help us to heal. Now, can you name some of the specific essential oils that you use in your service, particularly on this topic of healing and nourishment for the grief that we're going through?
Sure. And a lot of times too, when I do the blending, it really depends on that person because our chemistry works differently. But not just that, but because of our memories as well. Like if someone has a terrible memory, say with lavender, what we were talking about, then that oil will not work, even if it's calming. I remember I'd had a lady who I had made a blend for, and she, when we were talking about different scents that she liked and didn't like, she had forgotten to mention to me about marjoram, because she wanted something to help her sleep. So marjoram is actually really good oil to help you sleep. And I had put it in the blend, and when she had used it, she could smell it specifically. I couldn't smell it, but she had a really bad association with it. So the blend was no good. Like it did not work for her at all. So we had to reblend it with something different, and it worked fantastic. So that is an example of, it's oils when you, I like to blend like specific for people rather than just make a bunch of products up and sell them, because they might not necessarily work for that person. But some oils, it could be lavender. Rose is a really good one for grief. I think a lot of it, when I think of rose, I mean, we think of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and rose in aromatherapy is considered like the queen of oils, and who is the queen, right, of our faith.
Perfect association. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Now, are these essential oils, are some being applied to the skin? Are some being actually used in a diffuser? Are some actually taken internally?
I do either topically or inhalation. One of my favorite ways to do it is I have one of these little inhaler things here. So there's a cotton wick in here, and it just kind of screws off, and then you breathe in. It's like your own personal diffuser, so you can take with you when you leave the house. Because I mean, a lot of times, you might have a trigger that happens to be outside of the home, and you never know when they're going to hit, especially with first grieving. Like you're not sure of your triggers, and even later on, like sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a trigger. Like this was a new experience type thing. So I like to use the inhalers a lot. I also offer the roller bottles. One of the things I started making was the 7 sorrow rosary bracelets, and I put diffuser beads in them. So this one here I have on, it's the boy one. I have a boy one and a girl one, and then you can see the diffuser beads are there. So there's that.
I saw that on your website. So everybody, remember, go to essentialgrief.com and you can look up all of Melissa's services, and then the specific items such as that bracelet. Beautiful. So you would apply your specific blend of oil to the bead on your bracelet, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you're able to change, maybe as the different needs, your different needs change, and maybe a different blend can be used.
Yes, for
on
sure.
The bracelet, right? Okay, good, wonderful. Now, Melissa, your mission statement is to nourish your heart with a personalized aromatherapy blend, connect you with others, and encourage you to grow in your faith. As someone who has experienced pregnancy loss, how has helping heal others help you heal yourself?
Well, one of the ways that I found is just with connection with others, because I think you had talked about earlier, there's so much isolation with grief, and honestly, people that have not gone through it don't understand, and it isn't talked about. So for me personally, my second loss was in 2020. So right when COVID hit and all the lockdowns. So, there was no mass, no adoration, like nothing that I could really reach out to. I mean, I had a couple of friends that were great at like texting and calling and, different things like that. But I just still felt like there wasn't enough for me. So I had actually found a group online, this website where she offers women who are interested to be group leaders to offer like their own support group. And so I took it, even though, I didn't know whether I was going to do it or not, but I just needed some sort of connection and to connect with women, even though we were taking this to, start our own support group, peer support group, just to be able to talk with other women about their stories and to know like you're not alone. Because
so important. And this is the blessing that we have of the technology that we have, just as we're here today and meeting and talking and then sharing that with others. And I can imagine, especially in that time of the beginning of the pandemic and going through that terrible grief and longing for the church, longing for the sacraments, and you weren't able to access that. So thank God you were able to tap into other women that you could relate your experience and listen to their and really be able to help them as you're healing yourself. So I'm sure that led you to where you're at today and offering that much needed support for others. And of course, your background in being a nurse. Can you explain how faith plays such an important part in the healing process?
Sure. So when grief first hits, for most people, myself included, the anger is like really strong, and a lot of people got angry at God, myself included. I felt a lot of rage and almost resentment for what happened, and then lashing out on others. And that is common. If you are going through that you are not alone. And so faith is actually like the last thing that you're kind of concerned about, because you're just so angry. And a lot of people walk away from their faith through this. But I think when we remember that something's going to happen, basically, where we're going to choose a path. When we grieve, you're either going to choose to stay with your faith, you're going to take up drugs and alcohol, you're going to, take up eating, whatever it is, you're going to go somewhere. And I had to come to the place where I realized that, my babies just didn't die. They lived, and they are still living. And it's because of Christ, his death, his resurrection. And also because God just didn't create us with these hard emotions. He experienced them, right? Jesus went through rejection, isolation, betrayal. He wept. Like it is all there. And then I had to really like delve deep in scripture during COVID, and grief is all through the Bible. He sees your pain, even if you don't feel it. Hagar, when she ran from Sarah, she called God El Roi, which means the God who sees. He sees you. And when you look at other examples in scripture, like you look at Hannah with her infertility, and David's betrayal with his son, and what he went through with Saul, and the Psalms, like many of the Psalms that he wrote, and even Elijah, where he had this huge mountaintop experience with the prophets of Baal, and then Jezebel threatened him and he totally went into like this deep depression, almost suicidal. Like God allowed them to have space and to wrestle with these hard things. And they're hard emotions, but we need to go through the hard emotions. So when we consume other things other than our faith and choose to push these down, it's actually going to get worse for us.
And I think that's important to tap into services such as yours. And I'm going to list everything in the description box below about your services and your business. And because that is how I feel, especially I had lost a pregnancy in almost the 6th month. And so, matter of fact, I just visited the gravesite of my baby and a baby girl. And so I just think back about the feeling that you are alone and there isn't help for you, or nobody understands what you're going through. So this time today that we've had, I hope people that are watching this can realize that there is help out there, and especially Melissa is so capable. Please reach out to her because she can be that support where you don't have to feel alone, and you can feel that through using her expertise and her personal experience, there can be healing. So this has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. As we sign off, Melissa, the last question that I have for you is, what do you want viewers to take away from our discussion here today?
I think that I would want them to know just kind of what we've been talking about. Like you are not alone. You are loved. You did not, there was nothing you did wrong for this to happen. You know, we live in a world full of sin and death, and I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry it happened to you, and I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Beautiful, beautiful, because I think touching on that topic of feeling guilt, because I know with my experience too, I felt, was there something that I did to cause this every time I had a miscarriage? What did I do? Did I eat the wrong thing? Did I do something that could have led to this? So these are natural emotions, and we need to be able to address them and bring them out and talk about them and then have healing. So this has been so wonderful. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this today. And I'm so sorry for your losses, all your angels, your sweet angels as mine in heaven that are they are at peace with God and eternal happiness. And we can address them and name all of our miscarried babies. You know, too, that's very important to go ahead, and there's many steps. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that. But I think that our topic today and the fact that people out there know that there's someone that they can turn to. So I thank you so much for joining me today, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, take care and God bless. And as I mentioned, everyone, look down to the description box below where you can get all the information on essentialgrief.com. Until next time, peace and love.